Have you ever imagined waking up one day and realizing that you have died? Not in a dream, but for real. Death has come to you. I went through an experience so strange that it was almost unbelievable. Being declared dead, then being taken to another world, where everything became mysterious and enchanting. I not only felt death, but also felt like I was living a completely different life, in a space far beyond anything I had ever known. It was a journey I never thought of, an event that cannot be explained by science or ordinary logic. The feeling of facing death, of what comes after this life, made me reflect and reassess everything. And the most astonishing thing is, could what I went through be a phenomenon that each of us could experience? Leave a comment to share your thoughts on my journey and explore more about this mysterious world. Hello, my name is Harry. I've been skateboarding for over 20 years, and I've had my fair share of crazy experiences. But there's one that stands out far beyond anything I've ever done on a board. It's a memory that still haunts me, a near-death experience that took place when I was just 8 years old. I was young, but I already knew how to navigate the world with asthma. It was something I'd carried with me my whole life, and in some ways, it had shaped the person I was. I didn't realize how much it would shape the way I saw the world, though, until that fateful day. Asthma wasn't just something I had to deal with. It was part of who I was. I remember at the age of 8, meeting my best friend for the first time. As we introduced ourselves, the first thing I told him wasn't my name or anything typical of a kid meeting a new friend. I told him about my asthma. I was used to it by then, and it felt like an essential part of me. It wasn't a matter of being embarrassed. It was just something I had to deal with, and something others had to be aware of. It became a kind of introduction to who I was, in the same way someone might tell you they wear glasses or have a certain scar. Growing up in a family that didn't practice any particular religion, I never thought much about faith. Sure, I went through the motions of Catholic rituals. I had my first communion, like all the kids in my school. But to be honest, I never really understood it. The church was something I attended out of tradition, not something I felt any deep connection to. Faith wasn't a part of my life at all. Still, I went along with it, and it was just a part of my world that I couldn't escape, even though I didn't truly buy into it. But everything shifted one day when I was at my aunt's house. It was a day like any other, except for one thing: the cat. Now, I love animals, but I didn't know that this cat would be my undoing. I'd always had a bit of an allergy to cats, but nothing too severe. That day, though, I unknowingly cuddled up with her cat on the couch. The moment I did, I felt a shift in my body. My chest tightened, and I started gasping for air. It was an asthma attack, one like I'd never experienced before. The kind that grips you in a way that feels like you're suffocating. My lungs were shutting down, and I knew I was in serious trouble. Now, here's the part I'll never understand. Instead of panicking, I hesitated. I knew I needed help, but I didn't want to wake my aunt. It seems so foolish now, but back then, I didn't want to disturb her. I thought I could handle it, that it would pass. So I waited. My inhaler was running low, but I didn't want to admit that I was in real danger. I thought if I just gave it a little time, it would get better. But it didn't. Soon the situation became life-threatening. I could feel my breathing becoming more labored, my chest burning, and my body starting to fail me. That's when I finally made the decision to wake my aunt. But by then, it was almost too late. My body felt like it was shutting down. I was terrified, and I knew if I didn't get help soon, things could get a lot worse. I remember reaching for my grandfather's inhaler, desperate for anything that could help. It was the only thing I had left. I used it, but it wasn't enough. The air in my lungs felt like it was being squeezed out, and I couldn't breathe. Everything went dark. I lost consciousness. When I lost consciousness, it wasn't just the loss of physical awareness. It was something far deeper. It felt as if I was trapped inside my own body, unable to escape. It was as if I was a prisoner in my own skin, suffocating, but not able to scream for help. It wasn't like I was sleeping. It was more like I was in some sort of purgatory, stuck between life and death. The world around me was gone, and it was just me and my breathless body. And in that moment, when I had almost given up, no longer resisting, I felt a miraculous transformation. Something supernatural began to happen to me. It was not just death, but a mysterious and magical journey, leading me to a world I had never imagined, a space of peace and boundless love. I don't know how to explain it, but there was this moment when everything just stopped. It felt like the world around me had ceased to exist, like I was floating in this boundless void. It was dark, really dark, and I couldn't see anything clearly, except for this distant, faint light far ahead. I could barely make out its edges, but I knew that was where I needed to go. I had no real sense of time, no sense of space, just a knowing that I was moving towards that light. I didn't have to make any effort, no steps or force. It was like the light itself was pulling me toward it, gently guiding me forward. The sound, though, it wasn't loud or jarring, but soft and soothing, almost like a choir humming in the distance. It wasn't just a noise, it was a feeling, a resonance that somehow matched the rhythm of my soul. I didn't know how, but I knew that sound had something to do with where I was headed, with where I was going. As I moved closer to the light, there was this undeniable sense of peace that washed over me, like the calm after a storm. It wasn't a peace I'd ever felt on earth. It was deeper, somehow more profound. It wasn't just the absence of chaos or noise, but the presence of something greater, something that filled the very air around me. I felt the weight of the world lift off my shoulders. Every burden I'd ever carried seemed to vanish. In that space, there was no room for worry, no room for fear, only peace. Pure, untainted peace. And as I neared the light, I began to feel something else, something so overwhelming it made my heart swell. It was love. It wasn't a love like what we experience here, fleeting and imperfect, but something vast, something all-encompassing. It was like I was being wrapped in the warmest embrace, as though I had found a place where I belonged completely, where I was understood fully. It wasn't just any kind of love. It was unconditional. I didn't have to earn it, didn't have to prove myself worthy of it. It was simply there for me. It felt like everything I had been searching for my whole life, but never quite finding, was now right in front of me. And in that moment I understood something I'd never truly grasped before. This was the essence of the universe. This love, this peace. It was the foundation of everything. It was a world beyond the chaos, a world that didn't make demands, a world that simply was, perfect and eternal. That's when I saw him. I didn't see him in a way that you'd see another person. It was more of a presence, a being that seemed to fill the very space around me. I can't even describe his face, because it wasn't about appearances at all. It was his presence that overwhelmed me. His presence was so full of love, so full of peace, that every part of me instinctively knew this was God. I didn't question it. I didn't need to. The feeling of his presence was enough. He didn't need to speak to me with words. His very being communicated everything I needed to know. It wasn't just that he was there. It was that he was the light. He was the love and the peace. I felt no judgment, no anger, no disappointment from him. There was only a deep sense of acceptance, a deep sense that everything in the world, in the universe, had a purpose, and everything was as it should be. And it was in that moment that I realized that he was not speaking to me in words, as we usually understand, but a profound message, conveyed through the deepest feelings of my soul. In that moment, God didn't speak in words as we understand them. It wasn't like I was hearing a voice in my ear. It was something deeper, Something felt in the very core of my being. It was as if the message came not just to my mind, but to my heart, my soul, as though every part of me was being enveloped by something far greater than myself. And the message was simple, yet powerful. Life, he told me, is a journey of love. It's a journey about embracing love, living with love, and sharing that love with others. At first, it didn't seem like the grandest revelation, but as I sat with it, as I felt the weight of those words sink into me, I began to understand just how monumental that truth was. You see, I've spent a lot of time in my life trying to understand the meaning of everything. I've gone through struggles, faced challenges that made me question the very purpose of my existence. It was easy to get lost in the chaos of life, the noise, the distractions, the worries, the pains. But in that sacred moment, it became clear: love is the answer. Love isn't just something you give to others or feel for those close to you. Love is the very fabric of the universe. It's the force that holds everything together, that fuels every moment of our existence. And more than that, love is the greatest source of strength. I was told that love has the power to heal wounds, to mend broken hearts, and to overcome the hardest of trials. No matter how dark or difficult life may seem, love can cut through it, offering light and peace in ways we never thought possible. That's when I truly realized that love is not just a passive feeling or something reserved for special occasions. It is an active, constant force, something that can be lived, practiced, and embodied every single day. It doesn't have to be grand gestures or world-changing acts. It can be as simple as a smile, a kind word, or a small act of compassion. Every day we are given the opportunity to love, to make the world around us just a little bit brighter. And it doesn't matter how small the action may seem. What matters is that we show up, that we choose love even when the world might try to make us cynical, or tired, or apathetic. Every time we choose to act with love, we become part of something much bigger than ourselves. A ripple effect that spreads out to those around us, impacting lives in ways we may never fully understand. I remember, in that moment, God telling me that every encounter we have is an opportunity to love. We don't always recognize it in the hustle and bustle of life, but each person we meet, each interaction we have, is a chance to choose love over indifference, kindness over harshness, understanding over judgment. And when you do that, when you live a life where love is at the center of your actions, you begin to transform not only the world around you but your own life as well. It's like planting seeds of positivity and goodness, and over time, they grow into something beautiful, something that nourishes your soul and helps those around you. But it wasn't just about offering love to others. There was something just as important, something I hadn't fully understood before. God shared with me that to truly love others, we must first love ourselves. Self-love, he explained, is not selfish, it's essential. How can we offer love to the world if we don't recognize our own worth? If we don't take the time to nurture and care for our own hearts? The truth is, when we love ourselves, we become more compassionate, more patient, more understanding. We become vessels through which love can flow freely. God wasn't saying we need to be perfect. He wasn't saying we need to have all the answers. But he was reminding me that I deserve love, just like anyone else, and that taking care of myself was an act of love not only for me, but for everyone around me. That realization was life-changing. It made me stop and reflect on how I had been treating myself all these years, often with neglect, with self-criticism, with doubt. But in that encounter, I understood that self-love wasn't just a nice idea. It was vital to everything else. And then there was something else that stood out. The idea that love transcends all challenges. When I reflect on the difficult moments I've faced in my life, I now realize that they were never just obstacles to overcome, but opportunities to love more deeply. When we are faced with hardships, it's easy to retreat, to close ourselves off, to become resentful or bitter. But what if we allowed those moments to be the very place where love could grow? What if we took every setback, every hurt, every loss, as a chance to practice love in its most profound form? Love isn't always about happiness or ease. Sometimes love is about resilience, about showing up even when it's hard, about offering compassion even when we feel drained. And it was in that sacred moment that I realized that life is not just about survival, but a journey in search of meaning, where every moment holds a deeper purpose. It wasn't until that moment, in the presence of God, that I understood what life truly was. All of my years up to that point, I had been caught in the whirlwind of day-to-day existence, working, chasing goals, striving for success, accumulating things, always pushing forward, never quite knowing what I was chasing or why. I had lived my life as though I were merely existing, not really taking the time to stop and consider the deeper meaning behind the things I was doing. I believed that life was about achieving more, about getting ahead, and about securing my place in this world through things that could be measured: status, wealth, accomplishments. It was only when I encountered that overwhelming presence that everything began to shift. God conveyed something to me that day, something that continues to echo in my mind and soul every single day. Life is not about simply existing. It's not about accumulating achievements, ticking off boxes on some invisible checklist of success. Life, he told me, is about seeking meaning in every action, every moment. We're given this gift of life, and each day we wake up is a new opportunity to find purpose, to bring something meaningful into the world. It's easy to forget that, especially when we're caught up in the noise and distractions of our lives. We can get so fixated on what we need to do, on what we need to achieve, that we forget to stop and ask ourselves, why am I doing this? What is the deeper purpose behind this action? For so long I had thought that the purpose of life was to build a future for myself, to ensure that I was comfortable, secure, and successful in a material sense. But God helped me see that the true meaning of life doesn't come from the things we collect or the titles we earn. It doesn't come from having the nicest house, the fastest car, or the most prestigious job. The real meaning of life comes from how we choose to live it, from the values we embody, from the way we impact those around us. Life, he told me, is not about chasing material goals. Those things will never fill the void that we sometimes feel deep inside. True fulfillment, true happiness, lies in seeking the intangible. The qualities like compassion, kindness, and gratitude that transcend the physical world. Compassion, God explained to me, is at the heart of what it means to live a meaningful life. It's about opening your heart to others, understanding their pain and their struggles, and offering a hand of kindness without expecting anything in return. It's about seeing beyond your own needs and recognizing the humanity in those around you. Compassion is what connects us as a community, what binds us together as a collective. In a world that often feels divided, compassion is the bridge that brings us closer. And gratitude, he told me, is just as essential. Gratitude transforms our perspective on life. When we focus on what we have, rather than what we lack, our entire outlook shifts. Gratitude opens our hearts to the present moment, allowing us to appreciate the simple joys in life, the smile of a friend, the warmth of a hug, the beauty of nature. It's easy to take those things for granted, but when we truly practice gratitude, we begin to see how rich our lives are, how abundant our blessings truly are. I had spent so much time looking for meaning in the wrong places, in the tangible, in the material. But I've come to realize that the things that matter most are often the things we can't touch, the things we can't measure. Compassion and gratitude are the things that give life its true value. They are the things that bring joy, not just to ourselves, but to the world around us. When we focus on bringing joy to others, on making someone else's life a little bit better, we start to feel the true depth of what it means to live. It's in those small, everyday actions, the simple acts of kindness, the moments where we choose to put someone else's needs before our own, that we find our greatest purpose. It's not in the grand achievements or the material possessions. It's in the lives we touch, the difference we make in our communities, and the love we give freely. God also showed me that life is about living for others, not just for ourselves. This world is not just about what we can take, but about what we can give. When we shift our focus from, "What can I get out of this?" to, "How can I serve others? How can I bring joy and peace to the lives of those around me?" That's when we truly begin to understand the meaning of life. We become part of something bigger than ourselves, a greater movement of love, kindness, and positive energy. We begin to see that the happiness of others is just as important as our own, and that bringing joy to someone else can bring an incredible sense of fulfillment. We don't need to change the world in a grand way to make a difference. Sometimes it's as simple as being present for someone who needs a listening ear, or offering a helping hand when someone is struggling. Small actions can have a ripple effect, touching lives in ways we may never fully understand. The more I reflect on this, the more I realize how much I've been missing. Life is not a race to achieve, to accumulate, or to outdo others. It's about living with intention, about living in alignment with values that truly matter. It's about showing up for others, offering compassion, and practicing gratitude in every moment. When I live with these values at the center of my life, everything else falls into place. Success takes on a new meaning, not as something to be obtained for personal gain, but as a way to contribute to the greater good, to make a positive impact on the world around me. Every day becomes a chance to live with purpose, to create meaning, to bring joy, and to help others along the way. And it was in that tumultuous moment, when I faced life and death, that I realized that true change did not come from material success, but from deeper spiritual values that I had never perceived before. When I woke up in that sterile hospital room, everything felt so surreal. The faint beeping of machines, the bright overhead lights, and the muffled voices outside the door. None of it felt real at first. I could barely remember what had happened, or how I ended up there. But I knew one thing for sure. I had come back. I had been somewhere else, somewhere beyond the physical world, and something had changed inside me during that time. It wasn't just the fact that I had survived. It was something deeper, something profound that had settled within me. As I lay there, my body still weak and sore, I couldn't shake the feeling that my life had been given back to me for a reason. I wasn't the same person I had been before. The near-death experience had shifted something in me, opened my eyes in ways I never expected. It was as if the veil between life and death had been pulled back just long enough for me to glimpse a truth I had been blind to for years. I realized that in order to truly change my life, I had to start from within. I couldn't keep living the way I had been, chasing after meaningless goals and letting every little annoyance or setback ruin my day. I knew deep down that if I was going to make the most of this second chance, I needed to change the way I saw the world, and more importantly, the way I saw myself. The old me was focused on all the wrong things. I was consumed with external accomplishments, work, status, possessions, approval from others. But as I lay there recovering, a new understanding began to take root. I realized that happiness wasn't something that could be found in the things I had been chasing. It wasn't in the next promotion, the bigger house, or the latest gadget. I had spent so many years thinking that these things would make me happy, that they would fill some empty space inside of me. But now it was clear to me. None of those things brought real, lasting peace. True happiness, I learned, doesn't come from material things or external validation. It comes from peace within the soul. It comes from being at peace with who you are, from living authentically, and from knowing that your worth isn't tied to what you own or what others think of you. So I made a conscious decision to change. It wasn't an easy decision, and it wasn't an instant transformation, but something inside me clicked, and I realized that I didn't have to be a prisoner to my past habits or the negative thoughts that used to control me. I began to let go of the small things that used to bother me. Petty arguments, frustrations with things that didn't go my way, annoyances with the people around me. I stopped letting those things steal my peace. It became clear to me that the only way to truly change my life was to focus on what really mattered: living with love, compassion, and purpose. Instead of reacting to every challenge or inconvenience with frustration, I began to look for the opportunity in every moment. I started focusing on doing good for others, whether it was a kind word, a helping hand, or simply listening when someone needed to talk. It didn't have to be grand gestures. I learned that even the smallest actions could make a difference in someone else's day. When I shifted my focus from myself to others, I noticed something incredible. My own life began to feel fuller. I felt more connected to the world around me, more in tune with the people I encountered, and more at peace within myself. The more love I put out into the world, the more love I received in return. And it wasn't just love from others, it was a love that started within me, a deep, unconditional love for myself and for the world. What I didn't expect was how much this shift would affect my inner peace. I used to be so focused on controlling the things around me, on trying to shape the world to my liking. But I quickly realized that peace doesn't come from control. It comes from surrender. Surrendering to the flow of life, to the idea that not everything is going to go according to plan. And that's okay. Peace comes from accepting things as they are, not as we want them to be. It comes from realizing that we can't control every outcome, but we can control our response. And our response, I learned, should always come from a place of love, not fear. The more I practiced living from a place of love and peace, the more I realized that happiness doesn't depend on external circumstances. I used to think that if I just had more or achieved more, I would feel satisfied. But now I understood that true happiness isn't tied to anything outside of us. It's a state of being that comes from within. Happiness comes when you are at peace with yourself, when you accept yourself as you are, flaws and all, and when you live with the intention to bring goodness into the world. I found happiness not in possessions or achievements, but in the small, everyday moments, the quiet satisfaction of knowing I had been kind to someone, the joy of seeing someone smile because I took the time to listen, the peace that comes with letting go of the things I couldn't control. I also realized that life isn't just about surviving. It's about living fully. I had spent so many years simply going through the motions, marking time, always waiting for the right moment to live my best life. But I now understood that every moment is the right moment. Every single day is an opportunity to make a difference, to love, to be kind, to do good. There is no perfect time to start living your best life, because that time is always right now. And I realized that the key to living fully isn't about external success, but about living with purpose and meaning. It's about showing up for yourself and others. It's about making the most of the time you have. And it's about knowing that love and kindness are the true measures of success. In the months following my recovery, I made a conscious effort to live differently. I began each day with gratitude, thankful for the second chance I had been given. I worked hard to cultivate love in every action I took, to treat people with compassion and respect, and to always look for the good in any situation. I didn't always get it right. I'm still learning, still growing. But every day I made a commitment to myself to live with intention, to live with love, and to live with a deep sense of peace in my soul. It's a journey, one I know I'll continue for the rest of my life. But now, I approach it with a clear understanding that happiness isn't found in things or achievements. It's found in the peace I create within myself, and the love I share with the world around me. With the deep feelings from within and the sacred messages I received, I knew that I could not go back to my old way of life. This life has given me a new opportunity, and this time I am determined to live with purpose, live for others, and spread love to the community around me. After receiving the profound messages from God, something inside me clicked. I knew that I couldn't just go back to my old way of living. I had been given a second chance, and this time I was determined to make it count. The message was so clear. Life is about living with purpose, spreading love, and helping others along the way. I realized that if I truly wanted to live a meaningful life, I had to start by living for others, by making a difference in the community around me. I made a conscious decision to get involved. I started participating in local community activities, lending a hand wherever I could. Whether it was helping to organize charity events, volunteering at shelters, or just offering my time to people in need, I became focused on doing good deeds, big and small. It wasn't always easy, and it didn't always feel like I was making a huge impact, but I knew that every small act of kindness mattered. I knew that by showing up and offering my help, I was contributing to something greater, something that went beyond myself. As I began to take these actions, I noticed something incredible happening. People around me started to change too. When I shared God's message of love, compassion, and kindness, others began to embrace it as well. The more I encouraged people to live with love, to treat one another with respect and empathy, the more I saw a shift in the way people interacted with each other. It was like a ripple effect. One small act of compassion spreading out and inspiring others to do the same. I could see how powerful it was when we came together as a community, when we supported each other and focused on building each other up instead of tearing each other down. In those moments, I realized that God's message wasn't just about me changing. It was about creating a wave of change that could ripple through the lives of others. It wasn't just about transforming my own life, but about helping to create a more loving, connected, and compassionate community. Every act of kindness, every word of encouragement, added to the collective energy of love in our world. And in doing so, it created a space where people felt safe, seen, and supported. I can't explain how fulfilling it has been to see this transformation unfold, not just in my own life, but in the lives of those around me. I started to feel a sense of connection that I had never known before, as if we were all part of something much bigger, something divine, and in that, I found my purpose. The message from God had not only changed me, it had inspired me to help change the world, one loving act at a time. My journey has changed forever, and I believe that the message I received from God is not just for me, but for all of us. If you are searching for peace, love, and meaning in life, then now, at this very moment, is the time for you to open your heart and embrace the wonderful gift that God has given. Do not let worries, anxieties, or doubts control your life any longer. Live with love, gratitude, and understanding. When you change, the world around you will change. If my story has touched your heart, if you feel the light and hope from what I've shared, don't hesitate to leave a comment below. Share this story with those you love, those who are seeking peace in their souls. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe to my channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any message that God wants to send. Together, we will create a strong community filled with love and kindness, spreading light in this world. Let God bless you and help you discover the true purpose of life. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Let God's love and peace guide your way.